one wrong decision, one underestimated risk. That's all it takes to turn a peaceful camping trip into a terrifying final chapter. These 6 real-life stories aren't just accidents, they're haunting reminders of how quickly nature can turn against even the most experienced outdoor enthusiasts. What you're about to hear are the 6 most horrifying wilderness tragedies ever recorded, each unfolding in the wildest corners of America's most beautiful and deadly landscapes. Let's begin. 1. Trevor Hastings, hypothermia in Superior National Forest. In October 2017, 34-year-old Trevor Hastings, a senior software engineer from Minneapolis, set out for a solo camping trip in the sprawling beauty of Minnesota's Superior National Forest. Known among friends for being a meticulous planner, Trevor had over 15 years of solo camping experience under his belt. But this time, something would go terribly wrong. After a long, grueling work project, Trevor was craving solitude, fall colors, and a few perfect sunrise shots over Lake Superior. The weather forecast? Mild daytime temps in the 50s. Sounded perfect, but what he didn't factor in was the lake effect, a brutal phenomenon that can drop temperatures suddenly and sharply, especially overnight. He packed light. Too light. His sleeping bag was only rated for 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and he picked a remote campsite over 3 miles from the nearest trailhead. No cell coverage, no backup. His tent? Set up near the lake's edge, low ground, where cold air sinks and settles like a trap. About half a mile away, another camper, Sarah Mitchell, noticed how close his tent was to the water. She thought about warning him, but chose not to approach a stranger alone in the dark. She'd later say she regretted that decision. That night, an unexpected Arctic air mass swept in. Temperatures plunged to 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Trevor, shivering in his inadequate gear, tried desperately to start a fire, but the wind snuffed out every match. His hands were numb, coordination fading. Sarah later recalled hearing sounds, rustling, clicking, the unmistakable noise of someone fumbling with gear. Then, nothing. Trevor's core temperature dipped below 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Classic hypothermia. Confusion set in. Disoriented, he made a decision that sealed his fate. He left his tent, believing that walking would warm him up. But hypothermia robs the brain of reason. He was no longer thinking like the logical engineer he once was. He walked, stumbled, fell, over and over. By the time he collapsed, just 0.8 miles from his tent, his body was shutting down. Curled up in the fetal position, he lay among fallen leaves as the cold consumed him. When Sarah passed his site the next morning, the tent flaps were flapping wildly in the wind. No sign of movement. Something felt off. She hiked to the nearest ranger station. By the time search and rescue teams followed his trail, it was too late. Trevor was found 1.2 miles from his camp. His sleeping bag and warm gear were still in the tent. 2. Lauren McBride, grizzly bear attack in Glacier National Park. August 22, 2018. Glacier National Park. 28-year-old Lauren McBride, a seasoned backcountry ranger, began her final patrol through one of the park's most remote northern sections. Lauren wasn't a casual camper. She was the real deal. Athletic, disciplined, highly trained. She knew these mountains like the back of her hand. She'd handled countless bear encounters, always calm, always by the book. Bear spray? Check sidearm? Check food sealed and stashed properly? Absolutely. But on this patrol, things didn't go as planned. Recent reports had come in about a female grizzly with 2 cubs roaming near several popular campsites. That's why Lauren was out there, to inspect, monitor, and keep the park safe. She made her last radio check-in at 6:30 p.m., with her next scheduled for the following morning at 8 a.m. Sometime in the night, that very same grizzly and her cubs approached Lauren's campsite. claw marks on the tent, a toppled bear canister, torn fabric. It was all there. Signs of a defensive attack. Investigators later believed Lauren may have used her bear spray, but strong wind likely blew the cloud off course, rendering it almost useless. The bear struck with violent force, its right paw slashing across Lauren's chest and shoulder. Claws, nearly 4 inches long, tore through muscle, shattering her collarbone. She fell backward, smashing her head on a rock. Dazed, concussed, now at a severe disadvantage. The bear didn't stop. It bit down on her thigh, crushing her femur and severing her femoral artery. Blood loss was immediate and catastrophic. She lost nearly half her blood in just 4 minutes. The attack lasted about 90 seconds longer, slashing, biting, puncturing. Her lung collapsed. Lauren drifted into unconsciousness, her body succumbing to hypovolemic shock. She passed away mere minutes later, alone, in the wilderness she loved and protected. When she failed to radio in the next morning, rangers went searching. They found her at 11:45 a.m., 15 feet from her tent. The grizzly and her cubs were later found and relocated. Officials ruled the attack defensive, not predatory. Lauren did everything right, but sometimes even perfect protocol can't stop instinctual animal behavior. Her death led to a crucial change. Rangers were now required to patrol in pairs in areas with recent bear activity. 3. Chad Ellington. Flash flood in Anza Borrego Desert. September 3, 2017. Anza Borrego Desert State Park. 41-year-old Chad Ellington, a construction foreman from Los Angeles, was ready for his solo escape. Standing tall at 6 feet 2 inches with a muscular frame, Chad was no stranger to physical challenges. He'd been camping in this desert for years. The solitude, the silence, the late-season wildflowers. It was his therapy. That weekend, weather warnings had gone out. Flash flood risk due to storm remnants from Baja, California. But Chad? He didn't believe in overreacting. To him, forecasts were bureaucratic scare tactics. He'd camped through warnings before and survived. He set up his tent in Coyote Canyon, what looked like a safe, flat spot, but was actually part of an ancient alluvial fan, a natural flood path. That night, over 3 inches of rain dumped into the Laguna Mountains, miles away, but all feeding into the canyon where Chad slept. He was inside his tent, likely organizing camera gear, when he heard it, a low rumble. Maybe he thought it was wind, but it was water, lots of it. A wall of debris-laden floodwater, nearly 8 feet high, surged down the wash at 30 miles per hour, filled with boulders, branches, and churned earth. The flood hit his tent like a freight train. He didn't have time to move. Chad was swept away, slammed into rocks, dragged across the canyon floor, trapped by his own sleeping bag. He inhaled muddy, debris-filled water. The impact broke bones, crushed his shoulder, and fractured his skull. The flood carried him over a mile, through narrow canyon walls, where his battered body finally wedged near a concrete debris basin. The next day, rangers surveying the storm damage found his campsite obliterated. Search teams recovered Chad's body 1.88 miles downstream. The flood had moved over 8,000 tons of sediment. Chad's death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a wake-up call. New policies now automatically close desert washes when flash flood watches are issued. 4. Kristen Holloway, rockfall in Yosemite Valley. June 14, 2016, Yosemite Valley. 31-year-old Kristen Holloway, a physical therapist and passionate climber, had joined a group of friends for a weekend of rock climbing. Standing 5 feet 4 inches with a compact athletic build, Kristen was optimistic, social, and deeply in love with the climbing lifestyle. While not an expert, She was experienced and trusted the judgment of those around her. The group camped directly beneath El Capitan, one of the world's most iconic granite walls. It was a popular move. Camp close to climb more. But recently, park geologists had noted increased rockfall activity thanks to intense freeze-thaw cycles. Not many climbers knew that. Kristen set her tent about 150 feet from the cliff base, thinking it was safe. Early the next morning, just before sunrise, thermal stress cracked a massive granite slab nearly 800 feet above. It started with a sound, a snap, maybe a rumble. She might have woken up, maybe even sat up in her sleeping bag, trying to figure out what it was. Then, gravity took over. The 2,000-pound slab broke loose, fell, struck a ledge halfway down, and shattered into multiple chunks. One piece landed 12 feet from her tent. Another struck it directly. The impact was devastating. Her spine fractured, her ribs crushed. She died instantly from massive internal injuries. Other campers nearby called for help, but there was nothing medics could do. It took 6 people to lift the rock off her body. Kristen's death changed policy. Yosemite banned overnight camping within 200 feet of high-risk cliff faces, a heartbreaking rule written in stone after tragedy. 5. Eli Patterson, wildfire in Angeles National Forest, July 28, 2015. Angeles National Forest. 45-year-old Eli Patterson, an insurance adjuster from Pasadena, set out on a solo weekend camping trip, seeking peace after weeks of intense wildfire claims at work. Analytical, cautious, methodical, Eli wasn't careless. He followed protocols, informed his brother, and picked a remote creekside camp 2.88 miles from the road. But the forest was bone dry, with extreme fire danger across the region. What Eli didn't know was that an illegal campfire, lit miles away, would soon spark a rapidly spreading inferno. Fueled by Santa Ana winds, flames advanced at a terrifying pace, 3 miles per hour through dense chaparral. Smoke appeared on the horizon by early afternoon. Eli, trusting the creek nearby, assumed it was controlled. But as the glow intensified, panic crept in. He packed up, tried to follow the trail back, but smoke had swallowed the path. Visibility dropped to 10 feet. He turned the wrong way. Surrounded on 3 sides by fire, Eli hid behind a boulder, hoping to wait it out. But radiant heat scorched his skin. Toxic air seared his lungs. Carbon monoxide clouded his mind. He lost consciousness before the flames reached him. His remains were found 2 days later, 0.6 miles from the correct trail. His death prompted upgrades in emergency communication and fire evacuation procedures in remote campsites. 6. Nash Smith, poisonous mushroom foraging in Olympic National Forest, September 12, 2015, Olympic National Forest. 45-year-old Nash Smith, a plant biologist from the University of Washington, ventured out for a solo expedition into the Hoh rainforest. Nash was an expert on Pacific Northwest flora, but not on mushrooms. He planned to collect plant specimens, and on day 2 came across a cluster of pristine white mushrooms near a fallen log. Confident in his knowledge, he believed they were edible oyster mushrooms. They weren't. They were destroying angels, among the most lethal fungi on Earth. He cooked and ate them for lunch, never suspecting that amatoxins were already working their way through his liver and kidneys. By evening, the symptoms hit: severe vomiting, diarrhea, and dehydration. Then came the false recovery, a deceptive window where symptoms vanish. Nash believed he was better, but by the next afternoon, his organs began failing. By Monday morning, he had slipped into a coma. Park rangers found his tent days later after he missed his rental car return. His notes, his meals, all there. The mushrooms tested positive for amatoxins. His death triggered new Forest Service initiatives warning against amateur mushroom foraging in national parks. The Hoh rainforest is one of the quietest places on Earth, where the only sound is the drip of rain through moss and the distant call of ravens. It was here, beneath a canopy of ancient trees, that Nash's final hours passed in complete isolation. Investigators later found his field journal open to a page describing the mushrooms he'd eaten, sketched neatly in pencil with a small annotation beside it. Excellent specimens. That detail alone chilled every biologist who read the report. Toxicologists estimated that even a single bite of the mushroom he consumed contained enough amatoxin to destroy an adult human liver. Nash had eaten nearly 4 ounces. The poison works silently, blocking the body's ability to regenerate cells. By the time symptoms appear, the damage is already irreversible. In his tent, investigators found his camera still powered on, showing photos of forest mosses and close-up shots of fungi, one of them, unmistakably, the deadly Amanita bisporigera. Rain had soaked through the fabric of his tent, washing away traces of his final meal, but the small cooking pan was still there, resting on a rock beside his camp stove. Forensic teams determined that Nash likely spent his last conscious hours writing field notes, unaware that his body was shutting down from within. His story became a cautionary tale in academic circles, a brutal reminder that knowledge without humility can be deadly in the wild. These weren't beginners. Each one of these individuals had experience, knowledge, and preparation. But nature doesn't care how experienced someone is. In the wild, the margin for error is razor thin. Whether it's weather, wildlife, water, stone, fire, or even food, the wilderness can become a silent killer. Fast. Stay prepared, stay humble, stay alert. And if you found these true wilderness stories chilling, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more terrifying tales from the wild. Smash that like button and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss the next deadly adventure.